Welcome to the Karma Verdict. Let us get started with today's story. At the Italian restaurant, my fiancée looked me right in the eyes and told me her ex was wild and I was just a comfortable kiddie pool. When we got home, I told her to pack her bags and leave my house that very night. She cried and called it a mistake, but I refused to be her plan B for one more minute. That night, I ended the engagement before it destroyed me. And that was just the beginning. My name is Leo. I am in my late 20s and work as a paramedic. Abigail is 27 and teaches at an elementary school. We had been engaged for 3 years and had been living together for the last 12 months. Everything seemed stable until February rolled around and turned our world upside down like some television drama. Overnight, Abigail started guarding her phone like it was a classified document. This was the same woman who used to toss it to me without a second thought. But suddenly, it was as if she were protecting national secrets. If my eyes even glanced at the screen, she would snatch it away as if I had crossed a line. I confronted her. She brushed it off, blaming it on wedding jitters and work deadlines. Because, of course, late-night texts and hiding her phone under her pillow totally screams lesson planning. Meanwhile, I was working overtime, burning myself out to cover the costs of our dream honeymoon in Hawaii. I kept telling myself it was just the usual pre-wedding anxiety, but in the pit of my stomach, I could feel the truth creeping in. One evening, she suggested we have a quiet dinner at this little cozy Italian place. I assumed it was her way of making things right, maybe a chance to reconnect, but instead, she looked me dead in the eye and dropped this bombshell. Julian had reached out. Julian, the moody ex with a tortured artist vibe, the kind of guy who probably scribbles sad poetry on coffee shop receipts. She confessed they had been in contact. She said the feelings between them had resurfaced. She called their connection untamable and compared being with me to floating in a kiddie pool, comfortable, uneventful, and uninspired. That is where it all fell apart. She did not just call off our wedding. She basically erased our entire relationship, painting it as a fallback plan. As if I had been her plan B all along, the easy, reliable choice she never truly wanted. Now, I constantly wonder whether love is supposed to feel like chaos, or if I was just the easy choice from the start. I just sat there in stunned silence. My face probably looked like a frozen computer screen, blank and buffering. Across from me, Abigail was twisting her napkin, her eyes darting around as if hoping someone would come rescue her. "Okay," I finally said. My voice calmed despite the storm raging inside me. "Sounds like you have made your choice." Her face went pale. "Wait, what do you mean? You just said Julian might be the better fit. If that is how you feel, go for it. Be with him, but not while you were living in my house," she stammered, trying to backtrack. But I was done. I was not going to stand by as her backup plan while she romanticized some broody ghost from college. I threw $37 on the table, stood up, and said, "Dinner is on me. Consider it a farewell gift." The drive home was surreal. 3 years together gone up in smoke. 6 months of engagement. All the overtime I worked for our dream honeymoon. The house I bought for us. All of it suddenly meaningless. I kept hearing those words. Julian was wild. I was safe. Translation: I was the kiddie pool. He was the rough sea. When I got home, she was already on the couch crying. I did not stop. "Start packing." She tried again. I did not mean it. "No," I said, grabbing my phone. "You talk. I will unlink our accounts." It felt weirdly good to sever those ties. She spent hours packing while I sat at the kitchen table like a jaded security guard. Finally, she stood at the door, suitcase in hand. "Do you want the ring back?" she whispered. "Yes." She set it down like it might explode. Then came the final blow. "You are ending 3 years over one mistake." I almost laughed. "You ended it. I am just taking out the trash." She left just like that. I was single again. The house was quiet except for that ring glittering on the table like a cruel joke. By morning, the call started. Family, friends, everyone panicking like an Amber Alert had been issued. I kept it simple. Abigail wants someone else. I am not going to fight for someone who is already mine. My mom was furious. "Tell me this is not about another guy." A beat of silence. "She left you for that loser," she snapped. "That girl needs help." "No." I said he does. Even Dad chimed in. "Do you need help canceling the caterer?" "Dad," my fiancé ran off. "The risotto is not the problem." "Paige," my sister was blunt. "She is an idiot." "You dodged a bullet." Then Abigail's parents called. Her mom begged me not to give up. "She is just scared." She compared me to her ex. I said, "That is not fear, that is disrespect." Her dad did not call, just left a voicemail. Relationships take work. Exactly. I thought nothing says teamwork like fantasizing about someone else while you were sharing a bed. I did not call them back. What could I say? Your daughter called me boring and ran off. Hope you all are doing well. Then came the direct messages from our mutual friends, curious, prying, hungry for gossip. I kept my answers short and clean. Ask Abigail about Julian. It said everything. No drama, no shade, just the truth. Frank nailed it. People are more perceptive than we think. One sentence was enough to reveal it all. And the best part, she had to own it. She had to admit she blew up our 3-year relationship because her college ex slid into her direct messages one night. The word spread fast. We did not run in a huge circle, maybe 15 close friends, but within a few days, everyone knew. Most were on my side, especially the guys. No one blamed me for walking away after being treated like a backup option. I never signed up to be someone's emotional safety net. Still, a few people thought I was too harsh. Maybe therapy would have helped, one friend said, as if quoting a psychology podcast made them an expert. Therapy? I said to help my fiancée realize she should not be torn between me and her ex. I do not think so. Another added, maybe she just needed time to sort things out. Cool, I said, and I am supposed to wait around holding a sign. Pick me if you feel like it. Yeah, no thanks. I was not going to spend thousands to convince someone already wearing my ring that I should come before Julian. But honestly, the breakup was not the worst part. It was canceling the wedding. We had spent thousands, venues, photographers, caterers, flowers, a DJ, all non-refundable. On top of the heartbreak, some vendors were decent. The photographer was a true champ. When I called her, she sighed like she had seen it all. Trust me, you are not even in my top 10 for disasters, she said. Just a small cancellation fee. Others were not as forgiving. The venue kept everything. We cannot rebook this close to the date, they claimed. Right? I said because everyone is dying to get married on the day my life exploded. The caterer expected me to pay for the food. We have already bought the ingredients. Great, I said. I hope someone enjoys 200 servings of chicken marsala without me. In total, I lost about $7,400. But I did not ask Abigail for a dime. I could have, but I wanted a clean break. No drama. No lingering fights. Just closure. However expensive it was. Worse than the money. Making those calls, telling friends and family it was over, was brutal. Everyone had questions. One cousin asked, "Do you think she will come back?" "Sure," I said. Right after pigs book round-trip flights, the wildest responses came from her coworkers. 3 teachers messaged me, not to defend her, but to say she had messed up. That is when it hit me. They had seen it coming. Apparently, Abigail had been telling people we were drifting apart and wanted different things. Translation: I wanted a wedding. She wanted Julian. But teachers do not fall for vague excuses. If she was acting at work the way she was at home, they probably saw the cracks long before I did. Teachers have a radar for lies. If they can spot a phone hidden in a sweatshirt pocket, they can see right through phony stories. Then 2 weeks later, a friend sent me screenshots of her Facebook posts. Inspirational quotes of course, stuff about following your heart and not settling. Seriously, your heart led you to Julian's inbox. Do not rebrand that as a spiritual awakening and not settling. That hit hard like I was the practice round before her real love life began. I just stared at my phone, stunned. Frank, my coworker, glanced over. You okay? You look like you are about to launch that phone into orbit. She is online acting like I was not good enough. I said. He shrugged. Well, technically she did leave you, but not for the reasons she is posting. Brutal, but true. Still, I did not take the bait. No angry posts, no cryptic captions, no online jabs. Why bother? Arguing online just makes you look bitter. I was not going to become the guy venting on Facebook with half a pizza in his lap. The truth would speak for itself. What really got to me was not the breakup or the gossip. It was the silence, the quiet. No more. How was your day? When I got home, no more cooking together or bickering over Netflix. Just me, the microwave, and way too much silence. Sometimes I would still ask, "What do you want to watch?" Then I would remember, no one is here but the ceiling fan. I threw myself into work. I took every shift, covered for coworkers, racked up overtime like it was a full-time job. My boss probably thought I had a spiritual awakening. The truth was, I could not stand being alone with my thoughts, and the extra income helped offset the financial crater left by the canceled wedding. Frank never asked questions. He just always had my back. I have got to step out, I would say, trying to negotiate with a florist not to charge me for flowers no one will ever see. He would just nod. Bring me back a pity donut. Honestly, my whole crew was great. A few had survived messy divorces and offered wisdom only heartbreak could teach. Better now than after you sign the papers. One said divorce lawyers charge more than wedding planners, added another. It did not fix anything, but it reminded me I was not the first one to go through this kind of wreckage. By the third week, the rage had faded. I was not angry, I was just tired, but I could finally breathe. For the first time in months, the future did not feel like a sentence. Weirdly, things were starting to feel okay. The anxiety was gone. No more side-eyeing every time her phone lit up. No more silent panicking over wedding napkins or forced smiling through cake tastings. That heavy unspoken tension was gone, just like her. The first thing I did was block her everywhere. Phone, social media, even Pinterest. No chance I would accidentally stumble upon her planning wedding 2.0 with Julian. If she wanted to reach me, she would be screaming into the void. And if Julian really was better for her, great. Let her enjoy life in a garage band with a guy who peaked during fraternity week. Around that time, I started talking with Claire, an emergency room nurse with a sharp wit and zero drama. We were not dating, just small talk during breaks, but it was refreshing. She laughed at my jokes, asked questions, remembered things I had said. No passive-aggressive sighs, no mysterious cold shoulders, just normal conversation. One day she joked, "Sarcasm is basically therapy pretty much." I said it is cheaper. It hit me then. Abigail had mentally checked out long before the breakup. While I was booking venues, she was fantasizing about Julian. But Claire, she just got it. No games, no pressure, just two people talking like adults. Then one afternoon, I was in the middle of a home renovation project covered in sweat and my phone buzzed. It was Sam, barely able to speak through his laughter. "Dude," he wheezed, "you are not going to believe this. If this is another pyramid scheme." No, this is gold. My buddy's girlfriend knows one of Abigail's co-workers. I sighed. "Of course she does," he continued. "Julian dumped her." I stopped what I was doing. "Wait, he broke up with her?" "Yeah, after 6 weeks, said he never really loved her. Just wanted to see if the spark was still there." I sat down, stunned. So he tested the waters and handed back the keys. Sam was still laughing. "She has been calling him non-stop. He had to block her." I almost dropped my coffee. She got blocked. The queen of ghosting got ghosted. It was poetic. After all her talk about passion and destiny, she got burned again by the same guy. Turns out nostalgia does not come with a refund. And yeah, I felt a little smug. I had seen Julian for what he was from the start. All flash, no substance. The kind of guy you know will let you down. And she still chose him twice. I did not laugh. But I could have. The irony was too perfect. She had served me betrayal on a silver platter, and life had served her back some poetic justice. But more than satisfaction, I felt peace. A real lasting sleep like a rock kind of peace. I had dodged a train wreck. Amidst the relentless gossip, it suddenly felt like the universe was having a clearance sale on closure. She had been flooding her social media with sparkly quotes about self-love. Know your worth. Do not settle. That kind of recycled fortune cookie wisdom. Then Julian dumped her, and her high and mighty act vanished overnight. Even her co-workers, who had once cheered on her true love reunion, went quiet. It is hard to keep waving the romance flag when your leading man ghosts you in a 5-word text. A few days later, my sister told me Abigail's mom had called our mom crying, asking if I might talk to her. My mom, God bless her, delivered the sweetest no ever recorded. "Your daughter made her choice," she said. "Now she is living with it." A week later, I ran into Megan, one of the former bridesmaids, at the grocery store. It was tense at first, but then she smiled. "Hey," she said, "most of us think you did the right thing. What she did was not okay." Right there in the chip aisle, I almost hugged her. When you are surrounded by chaos, validation hits different. Then she dropped the real bombshell. Abigail had fully believed Julian would drop everything, his job, his city, maybe even his gym membership, and move in with her. She had built an entire fantasy around a guy who could not commit to a weekend plan. Reality clearly did not get the memo. That is the trap of emotional cheating. Nostalgia paints an ex as a soulmate instead of someone who already chose to leave. Suddenly, a college fling becomes destiny, and a past flame is treated like a five-star meal. Then came the please call phase. Block number, mystery voicemails, maybe even borrowed phones. I did not answer. If I wanted emotional spam, I would pick up the robocalls about car warranties. She even showed up at Sam's fire station. She looked devastated. He told me she wanted me to pass along a message. What did you say? I told her to get lost. This is why Sam stays in the inner circle. No hesitation, no fuss. Did I feel a little bad? Maybe, but most of me was thinking, you built this, enjoy the view. When that did not work, she went full drama mode, a Facebook essay. I would not have seen it. She had been blocked for a long time, but my sister saw it. She sent me screenshots with the subject line, "Get ready." Abigail's post claimed I never loved her. I gave up on her. I was distant and cold. Not a word about Julian. No mention of how she told me I was the safe, boring guy. Just a polished victim monologue. The real entertainment was the comments. People were not buying it. Did not you leave him for your ex? This story feels incomplete. Girl, be serious. She deleted it within a few hours. But the internet never forgets. That is the moment I realized she was not just sad. She was spiraling. When your breakup recovery plan includes writing fiction for Facebook, you have hit an emotional rock bottom. Meanwhile, I was breathing easy. My 30th birthday rolled around a few months later. Normally, I do not care about birthdays. It is just cake for breakfast. But my family, they celebrate like it is the Oscars. There is no escaping it. Breakup or not. By then, I was seeing more of Claire. I mentioned the party nonchalantly, and she lit up. Wait, I get to meet your family. Sure, I shrugged. Just know my mom will ask about marriage before dessert. She laughed and did not flinch. That was a good sign. The day of, I woke up happy, which felt strange. Is not 30 when you were supposed to wake up with back pain and regret? But here I was in my own house with a job I loved, real friends, and someone who did not treat me like a stand-in. Just a few months earlier, I was drowning in wedding stress and dodging mood swings about what kind of napkins to order. Now I was alive, breathing, and free. And that felt like a birthday worth celebrating. Claire showed up around noon with a cake. Not just any cake. A masterpiece. Homemade chocolate with frosting that did not taste like it came out of a can. She remembered me ranting once about how store-bought frosting tastes like chemicals. So she made it herself. That gesture was worth more than any diamond. Certainly more than Abigail's classic move. I ordered delivery again. Happy birthday. The second my mom met Claire, she was hooked. The two of them were trading cake ideas like they had been baking buddies forever. My dad, meanwhile, was outside showing off his grilling skills like he thought someone was going to offer him a cooking show. He even let Claire try his famous secret sauce. The same sauce he normally treats like a top-level state secret. If he offers that, it is his version of a welcome to the family gesture. Then my sister Paige, known for her savage honesty, leaned over and whispered, "I actually like her." This was huge. Paige had hated every girlfriend I ever brought home. She once described Abigail as a walking beige blanket. And really, the difference was insane. Abigail always acted like family gatherings were a punishment. Forced smiles, glued to her phone, and later complaining that my dad repeated his stories too much. Which he does. Okay, but that is part of the charm. It is like watching reruns of Friends. You were supposed to play along, not roll your eyes. But Claire, she jumped right in. She asked my mom for funny childhood stories about me, laughed at my dad's ridiculous puns, played cornhole with my brother Tom, and held her own. It felt like she already belonged. By the time the sun started to set, we were all sitting around the fire pit my dad had built the year before. Good food, good people. And the usual banter about stupid work, calls like the guy who called 911 because his Wi-Fi was out. I remember thinking, wow, this birthday is actually great. Way better than last year when Abigail sulked on her phone like joy was a contagious disease and barely mumbled happy birthday. Then someone knocked on the front door. I assumed it was a neighbor asking to turn down the music or maybe someone annoyed that we had parked in front of their driveway. You know, the usual weekend stuff, not even close. I opened the door and there she was. Abigail on my doorstep holding a gift, smiling like we had not just ended things in a dramatic dumpster fire. "Happy birthday, Leo," she said, sweet as honey. I just blinked. She looked different, like she had not been eating or sleeping much. Sunken eyes, unnoticeable weight loss, and her hair was choppy and freshly hacked, like she either had a crisis or went to a salon that doubled as a prank show. Honestly, she looked like a walking before picture. She was clearly trying to seem confident and cheerful, but it came off more like a desperate attempt from someone trying to sell you a lemon car with a smiley face sticker on the hood. I saw right through it. "What are you doing here, Abigail?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "I brought you a birthday present. Can I come in?" "Just for a second." Behind me, the noise in the backyard had died down. Great. Now we had an audience, even if they could not see what was happening. Just what I wanted, my ex showing up like a dramatic magic trick. "You cannot just show up unannounced," I told her. "I know," she said quickly, holding up her hands like she was under arrest. "It just felt weird that we are not talking. I wanted to give you this and maybe talk for a few minutes." She was holding out the gift like it was a peace treaty, and all I could think was that she probably bought it back when she still thought we were going to make it before Julian, Cologne, and everything else. The whole thing felt unreal. The woman who once told me I was practical and boring was now on my porch, freshly dumped by the guy she left me for. If this were a Netflix show, the episode title would be Karma Special Delivery. "What exactly do you want to talk about?" I asked, knowing full well where this was going. "Us?" she said quickly. "How I messed up. How much I miss you." I laughed out loud. Definitely not the reaction she was expecting. "Miss this? You mean the relationship you called safe and boring? The one you compared to a kiddie pool?" Her cheeks flushed so fast I thought she might explode. She was probably hoping I would let that comment fade into history. No chance. "I was emotional," she said, flustered. "I did not really mean it." "All right," I said sarcastically. "People say stuff like that all the time by accident. No big deal." We both knew better. No one says something that specific unless they have been thinking it for a while. Just then, the screen door opened, and Claire stepped out. "Everything okay out here?" she asked, calm as ever. The look on Abigail's face was priceless. It went from smug to stunned to furious in about 2 seconds. You could practically hear her thoughts. "Wait." He moved on. He is supposed to be heartbroken, rewatching sad movies and waiting for me. "Who is this?" Abigail snapped, her voice jumping an octave. Claire did not even blink. She just smiled politely and said, "I am Claire. You must be Abigail." Like she was greeting someone at a reception desk. Cool, composed, no drama. If there were awards for grace under pressure, Claire just won one. "You are already seeing someone." Abigail shrieked. "Actually," I said with a calm correction, "it has been almost 3 months since you chose Julian. So, yeah, I am with someone who actually cares." That is when Abigail exploded. She started yelling about how I never fought for her, how I moved on too fast, how I treated her like she did not matter. Classic reversal. She was the one who tossed me aside like a stand-in. Yet somehow I was the bad guy for refusing to wait around and mourn. Through all of this, Claire stood there like a statue of calm. Even though I could feel how uncomfortable she was, she stayed composed. She did not argue, did not try to defend herself, just let Abigail self-destruct in front of everyone. Honestly, it was the kind of drama you would expect popcorn for. The yelling was loud enough to alert the neighbors. So, of course, my dad came around the side of the house. One look at the situation, and he met my eyes, his firm and unequivocal. "She needs to leave." Naturally, Abigail acted like he had not said a thing. She kept going, her voice rising in pitch, as if she thought being louder would make her more persuasive. That is when Paige came charging out the door. "Get out now, or I am calling the police." Direct, no apologies. Pure Paige. My family had never exactly rolled out the red carpet for Abigail, but when we were engaged, they feigned politeness for my sake. Now that the ring was off, so were the gloves. Paige had clearly been waiting for this showdown, like the final round of a title fight, but Abigail was not ready to back down. She was spiraling, and you could practically see the fantasy she had built in her head crumbling. In her version, she shows up with a gift. I get emotional, and we ride off into the sunset like a soap opera ending. Instead, she ended up screaming in my front yard in front of my girlfriend, who was watching like she had stumbled into an unscripted reality show called Fiancée Meltdown. Finally, Abigail stormed off toward her car. I thought the scene was over, but no, she could not resist one last dramatic flare. Her mascara had run so badly. She looked like a raccoon that had lost a fight with the weather. "This is insane, Leo. Would not it just be easier if we got back together? We had 3 years." 3 years? Yeah, and all of them as productive as a broken vending machine. Sure, it is history, but that does not make it worth preserving. I just looked at her, clutching that pathetic gift like it could undo everything she had destroyed. Just a few months ago, she had been my future bride. Now she was just a stranger melting down on my steps because I had not stayed heartbroken in her absence. Easier for who? I yelled back, because it seems pretty simple on my end. Mic drop moment. No question. She jumped in her car, slammed the door, and peeled out like a grounded teenager. Squealing tires, the whole dramatic exit. I half expected her to come back and TP the place. I went back inside. Claire squeezed my hand gently. No questions, no prodding, just silent support. My family was riled up. Yeah, but the mood settled down fast. Birthdays go on. Tantrums do not. The rest of the night ended up being really nice. Abigail's interruption felt like a weird commercial break in an otherwise solid episode. Her gift, we threw it out the next morning. Not even opened. Nothing in that box could have topped the peace of not being with her anymore. That part of my life was officially over, locked up, and thrown in the fire. About a month later, word got around that Abigail had moved back in with her parents. Turns out, without someone to split the rent, her teacher's salary did not go far enough on its own. The irony was not lost on me. She had traded a stable home, a stable job, and someone who actually loved her for a guy who treated her like a timeshare. And it took all of 6 weeks for Mr. Destiny to dump her. That I call a stellar return on bad decisions. Shortly after, I heard she had taken time off from teaching. Voluntary, maybe. Or maybe her employer nudged her toward a mental health leave after too many red flags. Either way, I could not imagine the joy of going back to work and explaining. Remember my engagement? Yeah, that blew up. Now I am back at mom and dad's. Sugar for the coffee. Sam, my own small-town news anchor, kept dropping updates whether I asked for them or not. Dude, he told me one night like he was sharing classified intel. Abigail's been hitting up old flames, not just Julian and everyone, like she is rewatching her own dating show. So what is next? The main guys from high school. I am just saying the girl torched her life and burned every bridge. Hey, remember me? The girl who blew up her life and burned all the bridges. Coffee. It was sad, really, but when you treat people like backup options, eventually you run out of backups. The kicker was Julian's reaction. Apparently, someone clued him in on Abigail's birthday disaster at my place, and he was not thrilled. Sam did his best Julian impression for me. Bro, she is crazy. I dodged a bullet. I raised an eyebrow. You mean Julian? The romantic genius she left me for that guy? Sam grinned. Yeah, that is the one figures. Guys like Julian are experts at selling dreams, but they disappear the second things get real. He convinced her they were soulmates, then ghosted her when reality showed up. Now he was acting like she was the crazy one. Classic misdirection. Honestly, I tuned out of the Abigail drama pretty quickly. I had new things going on. Better job, better love life, better future. Meanwhile, she was starring in her own personal sitcom, and I had front row seats without paying a dime. 6 months after our breakup, Claire and I decided to officially move in together. She was already at my place most nights, and it just made sense financially, practically, but most of all, emotionally. No hesitation, no fear, no nagging doubts. When it is the right person, taking the next step feels like stepping onto solid ground, not a leap into the unknown. Then about 2 months later, I ran into Megan, one of Abigail's old co-workers, while picking out fruit at the supermarket. It was the same one who once told me I had handled everything maturely. She caught my eye near the apples. Leo, long time no see. How are you? I smiled. Still alive, so that is a win. Staying out of the Abigail highlight reel from what I hear. Megan laughed and leaned in. She is teaching again. New school on the other side of town. Fresh slate, I said, dropping some fruit into my cart. She needed it. Too much whispering about Julian. She added nonchalantly, grabbing some bananas. Then she dropped this. She asks about you. My eyebrows went up. She wanted to know if you were still with the nurse. If you seem happy. I almost dropped an apple. Happy? Oh, I have never been better, especially now that my phone is not an emotional roulette wheel. Megan snorted. Well, she is still checking mostly through mutual friends. That told me everything. If you are still tracking your ex's every move year later, you are not as healed as you pretend to be. But hey, not my problem anymore. I had built a new life with someone who did not need constant convincing. Someone who saw a future with me, No gut-wrenching arguments required. Some people take their failures and turn them into stepping stones. They look inward, make changes, and grow into better versions of themselves. Then there are the others, the ones who keep pushing the same shiny button of self-sabotage and act shocked when their life keeps bursting into flames. That dress she bought for our wedding, I would bet money it is still stuffed in the back of her parents' closet, stuck between dusty holiday boxes and her old cheerleader jacket. Thousands of dollars of white satin and lace, a perfect monument to the life she torched for a 6-week thrill ride. While she was unraveling, I was putting down roots, something honest, something that could last with someone who did not see me as a stop on the road to the next Julian. Claire was grounded. She was not chasing fairy tales. She was standing by my side because she believed in us, not because she needed a replacement. There is a world of difference. About a year after everything blew up with Abigail, I proposed to Claire. No flash or spectacle, just a quiet proposal during a calm weekend getaway we had planned together. No spotlight, no audience, just the two of us. And to be honest, it could not have been more right. But naturally, Abigail could not stay quiet forever. Eventually, she reappeared, this time with a long message from a number I did not know. My guess is she borrowed someone's device since she was still blocked on mine. The message was massive, like a full novel. Shakespeare would have been taking notes. It had everything: apologies, explanations, a desperate plea for a second chance. She mentioned going to therapy. Good for her, said Julian had been a pipe dream. Took her long enough. Claimed she realized I was the real thing all along. Every line was dripping with regret and daily reminders of what she had thrown away. She said she was finally ready to fight for what we had. Yeah, well, hard pass. I never replied, not even opening it enough to show a read receipt. Abigail had already said everything she needed to a year earlier when she looked me in the eye and said Julian was the better man. That is where the chapter closed, and she was the one who sealed it. Nothing fundamental had changed, except that her backup plan had imploded. Now she was crawling back through the ashes, hoping I was still there, waiting where she left me. Spoiler alert. Decent men do not hang around indefinitely, hoping to be subbed in after the game is already lost. Abigail taught me everything I do not want in a relationship. Claire showed me what I do, and that right there, that is everything. That is forever. Comment. I think one of the hardest lessons is realizing you cannot build a future with someone who sees you as a backup plan. Your value is never determined by someone else's inability to see it. Setting firm boundaries is not an act of cruelty. It is the ultimate act of self-preservation. You cannot take responsibility for another person's choices or their happiness. The silence that follows a difficult goodbye is often where your own voice can finally be heard again. The greatest kindness you can offer in these moments is the kindness you show to yourself. You deserve a love that feels like peace, not a constant audition for someone's affection. Closing one door, no matter how painful, is what creates the space for the right one to open. Never apologize for choosing your own peace of mind over someone else's drama. I hope this reminds you to always choose yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to stay updated with our upcoming stories. Your support means the world to us.